Again, we welcome those race fans who have just joined us here this morning at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park as we get set for race number 1. The Porsche is still sitting here on pit road momentarily. They will be rolling out onto the racetrack to get in their warm-up laps before they come to the line, looking for the green flag to start the clock on a 45-minute run. Following our podium presentations at the east end of the paddock at 11:05 this morning, Adam Ross will be joining us in the booth for the NASCAR Pinty Series. Total Quartz 251 laps is what they will run here this morning. LP Dumoulin, who was quickest in the practice session, will start from the pole after the NASCAR Pinty's officials, with the very wet track conditions, elected to simply use those practice times from earlier in the afternoon to set the grid. So it will be the current points leader, LP Dumoulin, with a 19-point advantage going into the race this morning, who will be starting up there on the pole position. Following our podium presentations in the NASCAR Pinty Series race, and it looks like we've got about 1 minute, and then the Porsches will roll off of pit road and begin their warm-up lap in preparation for the start of this race. Following our lunch break, we will get into our opening ceremonies and driver introductions at 2 p.m., and then a scheduled start at 2:30 this afternoon to the Chevrolet Silverado 250, the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series run here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. And then at 5 o'clock, the Nissan Micro Cup race with Jake Exton by just a simple 2/1000ths of a second. On pit road, drivers, start your engines! Well, I think that's the first for this guy, Dave. In about 40 minutes, we've been asked to do a lot of things in an announce booth, but never to give the command to start your engines. Hey, that was pretty cool. It's usually big famous people who get to do that stuff. Dave Bradley has joined us here in the booth as the sweet sound of a horde of Porsches comes to life and breaks the Sunday morning silence here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Great to have you aboard, ladies and gentlemen. If you've got that portable radio, 90.7 on your FM dial is where you'll pick up our public address broadcast. And, of course, the folks here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park providing a enhanced public address system with all of those hardline speakers, a bunch of new modern speakers installed right around the racetrack. So we look forward to calling this one 45 minutes. Dave, you and I have run into each other at various races, and first time we get a chance to share the microphone here and call one of these races. A little bit of different situation here in terms of the weather conditions from what these drivers faced here yesterday, when it was sort of a semi-drying racetrack, but looking at the lap times, they weren't all that far off what they were running here in the dry earlier in the weekend. The Mark Motors pair of Zach Robichon and Roman DeAngelis running 1-2 with just 1.6 seconds separating the teammates here at the checkered flag. So cars rolling off of pit road. They'll be coming back around. Dave, welcome.
Thank you very much. It's a beautiful day for a race, actually, compared to last year. And you mentioned it. You talked about the lap times, or I should say yesterday, not last year, but the lap times yesterday when we did get a little bit of moisture. Of course, the race called just a little bit early because of intense rain. But throughout the race, despite a little bit of moisture falling, the lap times were right on there. But what we did see was a close battle within the top 5. You had Zachary Robichon, Roman DeAngelis, Remo Ricchetti, Michael DeMaio, Jeff Kingsley, all there. Patrick Dussault in 6th was not too far behind as well. So it was a little different story than we've seen throughout the 2018 season. I mean, a lot of occasions, the number 98 of Zachary Robichaux has sort of set sail and run off and hid. But in this race, it was definitely anybody's race. It was up in the air. DeAngelis had a couple attempts at trying for the lead, especially when the rain started to fall. But it was funny to hear on the podium afterwards, Zachary Robichaux was talking about watching his mirrors and seeing Roman DeAngelis and sort of gauging how fast he could go based on where his young 17-year-old teammate was. But definitely an interesting series. Now, this is the final race of the 2018 season, and we can tell you officially that Zachary Robichaux is your champion on the strength of 10 wins over the course of the season in 11 races this year. But points are out the window for the driver, the number 98. So he can just go out and have some fun. There is no pressure on him today, which is a relief for any race car driver.
Well, with that championship already wrapped up, he is almost driving free, if you will. Will we see a bit of a different strategy? Is he just going to try to go out there and clear off here from the pole position, or is he going to try to make a bit of a race of it?
You know what? He's often just tried to run off and set some very fast laps as they come onto the front straightaway, looking for the green. Remo Richetti up on the outside. The green flag is up and we're underway. Zachary Robichaux will lead him into turn number 1.
Into that first turn on that opening lap as they head up the hill to turn number 2. This is where sometimes they'll go side by side, as we saw with some of the other racing here yesterday. Robichaux in the 98 car, winning by 1.6 seconds yesterday. Roman DeAngelis in the 78 in second. Then Remo Richetti, who finished in third in that open road racing entry. And then the Policaro Motorsport pair of Michael DeMeo and Jeff Kingsley finishing 4th and 5th. Opening lap, 45 minutes yesterday, with the race shortened due to the rain with that red flag late when the skies open. They completed.
Oh, we got problems in the early going, and around goes the outside pole sitter. That's the number 96 of Remo Richetti. A slide in the early going of this one. So your leader continues to be the number 98 of Zachary Robichaux, but pushing in second spot was Remo Richetti. Now you see the 78 of Roman DeAngelis sliding into third, then the 2 Policaro Motorsports sports car boutique entries of Michael DeMaio. He has the blue rear end and the red rear end. That's Jeff Kingsley. They're holding down 3rd and 4th right now. Patrick Dussault with a great start up into the 5th spot in the Lauson Autosport number 77.
And that incident here on the opening lap happening down in Moss Corner as they put lap number 1 up on the board. Robichaux in the 98 car leading across the line. 78, Roman DeAngelis in second. And it looks like that pair has already opened up a bit of a gap on Michael DeMeo in car number 35, one of the Policaro Motorsport entries.
Yeah, Remo Richetti had started on the outside pole based on the strength of fast lap times in race number 1. That's how you set the starting order for the second race of a weekend here in the Ultra 94 Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Canada by Yokohama. So if you set a fast lap on race number 1, that means you get a better starting spot in race number 2. That put the 96 of Remo Richetti in the Porsche Center Langley entry up on the outside of the front row. More problems now for the Porsche North Toronto number 83, believe that is Max Tolman, and that is in turn 5 again. So problematic corner for these drivers here today.
Tolman finishing in 8th yesterday as the leaders make their way off of turn 10, working back up across the line. This is a great battle going on between the 2 Policaro Motorsport competitors for 3rd and 4th. Michael DeMeo in 35, Kingsley in car number 16, and then running right with them, Patrick Dussault. The Lauson Autosport number 77 car is right there. So that is a 3-way battle going on for 3rd, 4th, and 5th, heading up to turn 2.
Tight battle. These drivers all very similar as far as experience. The top 2 anyway in that battle. Michael DeMaio and Jeff Kingsley, both rookies in the series here in 2018. Patrick Dussault, a rookie last year, but coming back with experience in 2018. But has had some significant bad luck over the course of the 2018 season. So he'd love to leave the championship in 2018 on a high note, as there's more problems again for Tillman. And that looks to be...
Turn 1.
Yeah, it does look to be turn 1. So he managed to right the ship from turn 5. He got all the way down to turn 1. We'll have another look at what happened, and this is towards the end of it. Just way outside the racing line was Tillman in the Porsche Center North Toronto entry.
And so we work lap number 4, I believe, up across the line as the front-running pair, the Mark Motors Racing entry. And then we've actually got a freight train of about 7 Porsches running third all the way back through 9th position up across the line. And that group consisting of the 2 Policaro Motorsport entries, the 35 of Michael DeMail, is running up there along with the Jeff Kingsley 16. Patrick Dassault is part of that group.
A lot of local dealerships coming on to help these teams in 2018. Porsche Center Oakville on the Policaro Motorsport Sports Car Boutique entries of Michael DeMaio and Jeff Kingsley. And there is a championship within a championship being raced here today. You have the Platinum Cup cars, which are the ones you currently see on your screen if you're watching on IMSA.TV, but you also have the Gold Cup cars, Marco Cerrone and Ilker Stark, both racing in that division here today. The cars look very similar. Really, the only styling cue that you can notice between a Platinum Cup car and a Gold Cup car is the yellow headlights for the Gold class. So that, if you're watching and you see a car with yellow headlights, that's an indication of a Gold Cup car. Essentially, the difference between them, the Platinum Cup, much newer cars, 2017, 2018. The Gold Cup from 2014, 2015. Similar platforms, little extra horsepower in the Platinum Cup class. So that gives it a little extra boost. But the Gold Cup, if you're looking to get into the Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge, that is a great place to start. You can acquire an older version of the GT3. It's still your Porsche. It's very much a race car, but you can get involved in the series and come out and have some fun in that class as a stepping stone to get up into the Platinum class.
So up front, it continues to be the pair of Mark Motors Porsches, 98. Zach Robichaux ahead of Roman DeAngelis in 78. And then we've been tracking this battle that's going on for that third place position, the last ticket to the victory podium here this morning in the second of our IMSA Ultra 94 Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Canada by Yokohama events. As we look to the Canadian Tire Bridge at the top of the Andretti straightaway for that front-running pair of Mark Motors Racing Porsches, Robichaux 98, DeAngelis 78. That is how they finished yesterday, and that's exactly what they are running right now. The 98 car of Robichaux out of 10, DeAngelis 78, and then there comes that freight train running third, fourth, fifth. It is still Michael DeMaio in third, Jeff Kingsley, the 16 car, in fourth, and rounding out the top 5, still the 77 of Patrick Dassault in the Lausanne Autosport Porsche.
And DeAngelis last time by, separated by 2.5 seconds to his veteran teammate Zachary Robichaux. Those two have a very, very good relationship off the track. You see them when they end up in victory lane. This year, more often than not, it was Zachary Robichaux on the top step of the podium, but Roman DeAngelis, a very mature 17-year-old, wise beyond his years, and a very, very quick race car driver, but he'd often hop out of the race car, a big smile on his face, and a big hug and a handshake to his teammate in victory lane. So it's an interesting relationship, and I think DeAngelis is learning a lot from his veteran teammate. As you see on screen, there is one of the Gold Cup cars. That is Marco Cerrone. He's currently leading in that class, 7th overall right now, just about 10 seconds back of your overall race leader, Zachary Robichaux, as he comes underneath the Canadian Tire Bridge into turn number 8.
And the first two drivers go through. Now we focus on this terrific three-way fight. There were more cars earlier, but now they have dropped off. The cars 6 on back, 35 holding on to third, Michael DeMaio. Then it is 16, Jeff Kingsley, then Patrick Dassault, as they complete what is lap number 6, I believe, up across the line at the end of that run. Some other great racing going on a little bit further back here in turn number 10. The 08 and the 96. Martin Harvey in the 08 car. And as he rolls up across the line, Remo Rossetti, who had that spin down in turn number 5, he's trying to claw his way back up through the field, but right now I think he's running just outside of the top 10.
Yeah, and it's you have to imagine how intense the cockpit, the inside of the cockpit of that open road number 96 of Remo Rossetti is right now. I mean, he's a youngster and he just wants to perform at the highest level. He had the opportunity to. Unfortunately, the car got away from him, but now he has some time to start clicking off those fast laps. Every time you're on track, it's a learning experience for these drivers. Rossetti, a rookie last year, unfortunately missed a couple races through the middle portion of the season, so that cost him in the championship last year, but he's come back strong, and he really has been the third driver to challenge the Mark Motors drivers generally every stop of the way here in 2018. It's been Zachary Robichaux at the top, Roman DeAngelis in second, and then Remo Rossetti has often been that third driver in there challenging. And yesterday he had a perfect opportunity to challenge for second spot just as the rain started coming. So he set some pretty fast laps. He was only a couple thousandths of a second off the fast lap set by Zachary Robichaux. That's why he started on the outside of the front row. Battle a little bit deeper in the field. It's a Gold Cup car of Ilker Stark out of the Polycaro Motorsport Sports Car Boutique stable, and the 08 of Martin Harvey in the Wingo Racing McDonald's back entry. So that's deeper in the pack, but as you can see, there is racing all over the place. Max Tolman did make a quick stop down pit lane in the 83 for service on his Porsche, but he's back out on track right now, back in the fray. As Ilker Stark takes a look on the outside, trying to diamond off in turn number 3, headed towards 4.
Well, some great racing all over the racetrack here. Cerrone in 18 is leading the Gold Cup class, and Ilka Stark in 48 currently runs second. Those are the only two Gold Cup entries here among the field. A 2014 Porsche for Cerrone, and for Stark, that's a 2015 Porsche. So up front, Zach Robichaux continues to dominate here. The margin, I believe, has been hovering somewhere around about 3 seconds ahead of Roman DeAngelis. And then that third place battle has been a good one from the opening lap. Michael DeMeo in car number 35 ahead of his Polycaro Motorsport Sports Car Boutique teammate Jeff Kingsley. And then Patrick Dussault keeping it close back there in the 5th place spot.
Yeah, there's only about half a second between the 3rd and 4th place driver. Again, this battle that we're watching is a little bit deeper in the pack between the Wingo Racing 08 of Martin Harvey and the Gold Cup car of Ilker Stark. But interesting, too, Martin Harvey is in the Masters class here in 2018, and that's obviously based on the age of the driver, not necessarily the car. The car is identical to the rest of the Platinum Cup cars, but the benefit of being in the Masters class is you do have the opportunity to run anti-lock brakes if you so choose. So it gives you a little bit of an advantage, but it is designed for mainly gentlemen drivers to get involved if they want to. But so you have the opportunity to choose whether or not you want the computer to take control of the braking threshold, or if you want to do it yourself. You have that option in the Masters class. And currently Perry Bortolotti in the 84. He's running inside the top 10, and he leads the Masters Championship here today. He's running an 8th spot, about 14 seconds to drift up your race leader. But there is that battle for 3rd between Michael DeMaio and Jeff Kingsley. 2 cars in the same stable, backed by Porsche Center Oakville in the Polycaro Motorsports. Number 35 and number 16. Michael DeMaio with the blue tail on that one, and the red tail belongs to the 16 of Jeff Kingsley. Both local drivers from nearby. Kingsley from Ajax, Ontario. Michael DeMaio from Toronto. And so a lot of family, a lot of friends in the crowd here today. And so they want to put on a good show. Their final race of their rookie season, too. So they can show exactly what they've learned over the course of 2018.
Looks like we've got 9 laps completed in this 45-minute timed event. Coming up next, 11:05, the NASCAR Pinty Series Total Quartz 200 That'll be 51 laps. We'll see how many we can get in here this morning in the 45 minutes. I imagine it'll be somewhere around 30, maybe plus or minus a lap. But Zach Robichaux has been totally dominant so far, running almost 4 seconds clear of his Mark Motors Racing teammate in the 78. That is Roman DeAngelis. Then a ever-growing gap back to the three-way fight for third. Michael DeMeo in the 35 ahead of his Polycara Motorsport teammate Jeff Kingsley, and then Patrick Dussault in the 77 car right there in the 5th place spot.
Tip of the hat to Stefan Rudzinski, too, in the 6th position, driving the number 8 from downtown Porsche, having a great run here today. Quietly working his way forward. He continues to put in some pretty quick laps, and he's closing the gap to the 77 of Patrick Dussault, so he'll be there possibly by race end. Still lots of time left in this one. Again, it's a 45-minute timed race. 30 minutes left on the clock here for Zachary Robichaux, who's pretty much on cruise control at the front of the field. But if Roman DeAngelis makes one mistake, he will have the pair of Michael DeMeo and Jeff Kingsley on his back bumper. The difference is really not that severe. It's just about a second and a half now. So that's one mistake, and you've got company.
10 laps in the books as Zach Robichaux rolls up across the line, bringing his teammate about 4 seconds adrift. In 2nd place, Roman DeAngelis, and then in 3rd is Michael DeMeo. David, the lap times approaching the fastest that we saw yesterday, and in fact, I think Robichaux may have gone just a tick quicker than his fastest lap of yesterday, which was a minute 20.644 that put him on the pole for the race here this morning. I wouldn't be surprised to see a minute 19 before this one is all over.
Usually that's exactly what Zachary Robichaux does. He continues to get faster over the course of a race as we watch a great battle here for 7th, 8th, and 9th. That is Marco Cerrone, the leader in the Gold Cup class. Perry Bortolotti and Michael Fanton also there. Good showing by Michael Fanton in the engineered automotive number 14. Again, a driver very much new to not only the Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Canada, but new to racing in general. So he only started racing a car back in April, period. No experience coming into this class, and he has grown in leaps and bounds every time he's on the track. And here he is in a great battle with a veteran in Perry Bortolotti, someone who's been around the Porsche GT3 Cup Championship for many, many years, back racing in the Masters class here today. As a matter of fact, leading the Master class, 8th overall right now. But there's that battle for 3rd spot between the pair of teammates.
The leader going through, Robichaux, lap number 12, completed Roman DeAngelis. And then that fight for 3rd, 4th, and 5th continues close on the racetrack as they work up to turn number 2. And then we have that 96 car, I believe, Remo Rossetti is in that, believe he may have just got himself up inside of the top 10.
Yeah.
He was knocking on the door. He is finally up in a 10 after having that spin earlier down at Moss Corner as he tries to work his way back up, pick up as many points as he possibly can here this morning.
You know, it's interesting. You talked about lap times, and look at how equal Zachary Robichaux and Roman DeAngelis are right now. Their last lap, a 121.006 for Zachary Robichaux. For Roman DeAngelis, last time by, a 121.010. So 4 1,000ths of a second, the difference on that lap time between the top 2 drivers. So the gap is just over 4 seconds. But Roman DeAngelis showing that he can hang if the opportunity presents itself. However, he has, oh no, this is a little bit deeper. That's Marco Cerrone in the number 18 Gold Cup car. I saw the black nose with the green rear fenders, and that's the same color scheme that Roman DeAngelis has in 2nd spot. This is a battle a little deeper in the field, 7th, 8th, and 9th, as we mentioned. Marco Cerrone in the 18, and Perry Bortolotti, Michael Fanton in there as well. So they are all covered by a blanket, less than a second between them.
Well, we show about 27 minutes approximately to go in this Ultra 94 Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Canada by Yokohama, the pole sitter, Zach Robichaux in the Marks Motors Racing Porsche continues to lead. That margin just continues to grow about a tenth or two per lap. It's up to 4.2 seconds over Roman DeAngelis in second. Michael DeMeo, 35, still holds third. Kingsley in the 16 is fourth. Patrick Dussault is up there in the fifth place spot. So we just got our pronunciation guide, which we like to get on Friday, but we got it here on the Sunday morning. DeMeo is the third place driver in the Policaro Motorsport entry, and he is back as he goes through here, about 3 seconds or so back of DeAngelis. So you're right, David, any kind of a miscue by DeAngelis, we're going to have a 3 or 4 car battle going on for that second place position. But right now, Zach Robichaux starting to check out on the rest of the field, as he has got about 4.4 seconds clear of Roman DeAngelis in that second place spot.
So not too far back from the 16 of Jeff Kingsley in fifth as well, but right now the best battle on the track is this 7th, 8th, and 9th. Cerrone in the Gold Cup car. There is Perry Bortolotti and the Engineered Automotive, number 14, Michael Fanton. We talked a little bit yesterday, Michael Fanton getting help in the coaching department from a former champion in the Ultra 94 Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Canada by Yokohama in Daniel Morag, who's sort of giving some tips, giving some pointers, and just trying to help him improve, especially in between race weekends. He'll come out and watch him race, and then he'll coach Michael Fanton and try and give him those little extra tips that'll help him pick up tenths of a second.
Well, Fanton is a quick learner. If he got in a race car just a few months ago, and here he is, having a pretty good run. I think still just inside of the top 10 here. The last time we looked at where he was running in the field, as the race leader has gone through. Lap number 15 completed for Zach Robichaux, and just continuing to monitor that advantage over his teammate Roman DeAngelis. It's still sitting there at about 4.4 seconds, and then about another 3 seconds back in third is Michael DeMeo, and then it is Jeff Kingsley, and Patrick Dussault continues to round out the top 5.
There's a challenge, though, for 7th spot. Perry Bortolotti has caught his Mark Motors teammate in the 18, Marco Cerrone. Cerrone taking a very wide line out of turn number 3, trying to carry as much speed as he can. Again, a little bit under horsepower in the Gold Cup car by design. The Platinum Cup cars do have the horsepower advantage as Cerrone takes a wide entry and tries to roll the car, keeping the momentum up down the long Andretti straightaway, but Bortolotti is right there. He'll be in tow down this straightaway, and Michael Fanton is there to mount a challenge as well. So that battle, 7th, 8th, and 9th, has gotten even closer.
Up the Andretti straightaway, they'll go under the Canadian Tire Bridge into turn number 8, into the top of the S's. These 3 Porsches running 7th, 8th, and 9th. One of the best battles here in the top 10. They swing through 9 into 10, and on the start-finish straightaway to complete what would be lap number 16 for the trio. And now it's downhill into turn number 1. Not much among these 3 drivers.
No, and this is what's beautiful about the Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Canada. You have a couple wily veterans, Marco Cerrone, champion of the Masters class for many years, Perry Bortolotti, a veteran as well, and then you have a rookie, a very raw rookie, Michael Fanton, and they're all dicing back and forth. You see a trio of different lines in through turn number 3. Bortolotti outside the apex just a little bit, and that allowed Fanton to close the gap.
And those 3 drivers back up at a Moss corner. The 14, probably the driver with the least experience here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, but he's running right with a couple of veterans as they work up that Andretti straightaway. The 84 car of Bortolotti is sandwiched right in between the 14 of Michael Fanton and car number 18, Marco Cerrone. as we continue to follow this battle in through turn number 10. And on the start-finish straightaway, Fanton, the third driver in that trio as they roll back up across the line to complete the lap. We're on lap number 18 in this 45-minute Ultra 94 Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Canada by Yokohama. And checking the margin up front, I think has grown just a little bit, a shade under 5 seconds, separating the two Mark Motors Racing teammates. The 98 Porsche of Zach Robichaux, the number 78 Porsche of Roman DeAngelis. They continue to run 1-2 here on the racetrack, exactly how they finished in that rain-shortened race yesterday. Michael DeMeo in car number 35, the Polycaro Motorsport driver, holding on to that last ticket to the victory podium here this morning. Jeff Kingsley and Patrick Dussault continue to round out the top 5.
Something has happened there that we didn't see on our camera shot, because the last time they crossed the stripe was almost a second between Michael DeMeo and Jeff Kingsley, and now it's very much tighter than that. As you can see, Kingsley is hounding his teammate on the front straightaway, and we'll give you the updated difference between those two drivers as they head down through turn number 1. Not quite close enough to make a challenge for third spot yet, as DeMeo steps out a little bit on quarter exit in turn number 1, and again that allows an opportunity for the 16 of Kingsley to close.
Just a couple of car lengths separating this pair up into turn number 3. The 35 and the 16, the Polycaro Motorsport teammates going at it as they work the short chute down under the bridge at 4 and into the chute. And now it'll be down through the gearbox on the brakes up in a Moss corner, and just a car length of daylight separating the pair. Who's got the horsepower up that back straightaway as Kingsley is tucked right on there, that rear wing of the 35 cars. They head up the Andretti straightaway.
And there you see your race leader going through. That's the difference back to second place. Roman DeAngelis, we're waiting for this battle for third. There it is between Michael DeMeo and the 16 of Jeff Kingsley. But just in behind this one, as Kingsley is still hounding his teammate. He is a little bit better. That car seems to be working a little bit better through the middle part of the corner. However, it's a spec series. They're both in the same car. It all depends on how much setup they put in and how different that setup is. Have they changed the wing angle? Are they a little bit different when it comes to that aspect, the drag down the Andretti straightaway? That'll all come into play, but the cars are essentially identical. It all puts it back into the hands of the driver, and Michael DeMeo a little bit loose in turn number 3. The back end stepping out on that car didn't cost him too much, as Remo Raschetti in the number 96 open road Porsche Center Langley entry continues to move up through the field as he works around the 14 of Michael Fanton.
And I think he has now taken over that 9th place position after that early spin at Moss Corner, so he is carving his way up through the pack, and there are about 2 or 3 drivers just ahead of him. I think he might be able to get up there as high as 6 or 7 before the 45 minutes runs out, but every position means a few more points towards his championship total. Up front, it has been all Zach Robichaux in car number 98, the pole sitter, who wrapped up the championship yesterday, so he's racing free out here, no pressure of a championship or a points battle, and he has just been absolutely brilliant from that opening lap and has opened up almost a 5-second advantage on the 78 of Roman DeAngelis. Still looking at the fight for third between the two Polycaro Motorsport teammates, Michael DeMeo and Jeff Kingsley. They were a couple of car lengths apart the last time we watched that battle, and I think they're just as close as they come up here to the completion, in fact, of lap number 21 next time by.
There comes Raschetti continuing to carve his way on the outside in turn number 2 around the 84 Perry Bortolani of the Mark Motors stable. Raschetti is definitely a determined driver at this point, working his way back up through the field. That's 8th spot for the driver of the 96 from British Columbia. So he is coming. He's showing exactly those fast laps that he put in yesterday and why he qualified on the outside of the front row. Now, Michael Fenton saw that happen, and he said, wait a second, can I follow my way through as he's closed the gap onto the back bumper of the 84, Perry Bortolani once again.
Well, the next target's going to be Marco Cerrone, who is up there in that 7th place position. So the Rossetti car continues to close here on the drivers just ahead of him in the top 10. Working lap number 22 in our 45-minute Ultra 94 Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Canada by Yokohama, and it continues to be the Mark Motors pair of Zach Robichaux and Roman DeAngelis continuing to run 1-2. They completed 26 laps yesterday. That race, a red flag late due to the downpour, but here today I think we're going to be running 30 laps plus by the time they get to the checkered flag.
Yeah, just over 15 minutes left to go in this race, but you saw briefly there the 83 of Max Tolman, the Porsche Center North Toronto entry, pull over to the side, let this battle go through. So a veteran move by Max Tolman as Michael DeMeo again in the 35. The Paulie Carroll Motorsport Sports Car Boutique Porsche Center Oakville entries. I say entries because Jeff Kingsley, racing out of the same stable, continues to hound. And these two drivers, when you race your teammate, it gives you a little added incentive to win. You want to get back to the trailer, even if you're racing for 3rd, 4th, 5th, whatever. It could be 7th, 8th. But when you get back to the trailer and you beat your teammate, it feels that much better. It could be some light ribbing back in the paddock area afterwards as well. But these two drivers racing for that final step on the podium, and they are going hard at it, and they have been for probably the last 10 laps or so.
And that has been so heated here for those last 10 laps that Patrick Dussault has not been able to go with them. He has dropped about 3 or 4 seconds back, running all by himself in that 5th place position. So they work lap number 23. Zach Robichaux, your leader in the Marks Motors Racing, number 98 Porsche, 78 Roman DeAngelis in the second of the Mark Motors Racing entries. Then third is that 35 of Michael DeMeo in the Policaro Motorsport Porsche. Then 16 Jeff Kingsley in 4th, and Patrick Dussault, 77, continues to round out the top 5.
There you see Remo Rossetti, Marco Cerrone way out on the outside in turn number 3. Again, in the lower horsepower car, just trying to keep the momentum up and keep the 96 at bay. But Rossetti definitely with a faster car as he works through turn 5A and B. And will try and get a run out of 5B down the back straightaway. He'll be in the tow of the number 18 Gold Cup leading car of Marco Cerrone. You saw a quick flash of Ilker Stark in the number 48 towards the back end of the group here. So he is currently running in 11th spot, just ahead of the 08 of Mark Harvey.
So he continues to carve his way up through the field, and I think he'll be around that 18 car of Cerrone here in short order. And he, I believe, has gone around here as they work up across the line. So that is going to push that Rossetti car as the rundowns changes, and does show that car number 96 now up into the 7th place position. Up front, it is sort of stabilized here the last little bit as Zach Robichaux has not been able to add to the margin over his teammate Roman DeAngelis. It's sitting at about 4.7 seconds. Then a further gap back of about 6-7 seconds to the fight going on for third between the two Policaro Motorsport entries, Michael DeMeo and Jeff Kingsley in the 35 and the 16 car.
Marco Cerrone has managed to get back around the number 96 of Remo Rossetti in the 18. So the Mark Motors Gold Cup car is a little bit better in the tighter, twistier spots here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. But there you see the extra horsepower of the Platinum Cup car to the inside into turn number 8 and give the spot back to Remo Rossetti. Up into 7th position is the driver of the 96. Started on the outside of the front row, had a problem in the early going in this one. Half spin, unfortunately. Fortunately for him, didn't hit anything. No tire wall or concrete barrier, so the car just needed to be righted. Remo Rossetti did that, started way back in the field, but has worked his way back up, chipped, clawed, and scrambled his way back up through the field to make it up now to 7th position.
And Dave, you could see that up the back straightaway. He was a couple of car lengths coming out of Moss Corner and just blew by on that Andretti straightaway. Had the position by the time they got into the top of the S's. So the Mark Motors team leading both the Gold Cup and the Platinum Cup as the battle there for 7th. Cerrone in the 18 car is your leader in the Gold Cup class, driving that 2014 four-year-old Porsche, but doing a great job running inside of the top 10 and leading the class. Meanwhile, his Mark Motors racing teammates, Zach Robichaux and Roman DeAngelis in the 98 and the 78 cars, continue to run 1-2. And actually up front, that lead of Robichaux that had grown to almost 5 seconds is down to 4.3. So DeAngelis keeping Robichaux in his sights, and we'll see if he is going to put in a late race charge here as we come up on next time by. I believe it'll be 27 laps completed.
And 10 minutes left to go in this 45-minute timed race next time we cross the stripe. However, this battle here for 3rd has settled a little bit as Michael DeMeo has been able to open up a little bit of a gap now on his teammate, the 16, Jeff Kingsley. So the two, and as I say that, look at the run Kingsley gets into turn number 5 and closes that gap right up. That seems to be where Kingsley is best here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, in through 5A and B, especially through the middle part of the Moss Corner. At the end of this racetrack, he's just able to close the gap significantly through the middle part of that corner and then continues the run down the back straightaway and corner exit. But they do have a lap car just ahead of them. I think it's Ilker Stark just ahead in the Paulie Carroll Motorsport Gold Cup entry it is. And Stark will be told that the battle for 3rd is coming through, and Stark tries to get on the brakes and get to the inside, but it nearly cost Michael DeMeo.
And they're waving that blue overtaking flag wildly up in the flagger stand, but they were able to get to the inside and get around the Stark car, and they continue to battle down to the bottom of turn number 2. They've been running this close together for at least the last 13 or 14 laps, and now it's through turn number 3. This is the best battle on the racetrack, ladies and gentlemen. Off of turn number 3, the 35 of DeMeo, the 16 of Kingsley, and you wouldn't know that these were teammates, how hard they're driving in at Moss Corner now at the bottom of the racetrack. It's still just a car length separating the 35 of DeMeo and the 16 of Kingsley.
DeMeo to get able to get a little bit better run off of turn number 5, and that'll benefit him all the way down this long Andretti straightaway into turn number 8. Fenton with a big slide and stays off the concrete barrier. As a matter of fact, stays out of the grass and keeps it going. Just grabs a gear and away he goes. Let's have another look at what happened to the engineered automotive driver, the 14.
Oh, he just loops that car around. Nice job, as you said, of keeping it off that inside concrete wall. He could have done a lot of damage to that race car. So again, he's going through a pretty steep learning curve, and I think he just learned something over there in turn number 3.
The power of the Porsche overcomes the traction of the Yokohama tires, but these Yokohama tires are essentially bulletproof on these race cars. They have no trouble lasting the entire 45-minute distance. But sometimes when you just try to squeeze the throttle a little bit earlier to make up a gap on a driver in front of you, that's what happens. And it can happen very, very quickly, as Michael Fenton just learned. So, as we mentioned, thankfully, staying off the concrete barrier, and we stay green. However, a few of these drivers probably would have liked to see a full course caution to bunch up the field.
Well, that margin up front that we continue to monitor has not changed a whole lot in the last little while. Out of the hairpin at Moss Corner, they begin the run up the Andretti straightaway under the Mobile One sign as they work through turn 6 and 7. We call them turns. They're really just little bends on that Andretti straightaway. Now under the Canadian Tire Bridge into the top of the S's here at turn number 8. and it looked as though Kingsley may have got hung up just a little bit getting around that slower car, but as they work out at turn 10, it's back to just a car length as they complete what is lap number 28, goes up on the board. Robichaux in car number 98, your leader, 78 DeAngelis in second. But our focus of attention, this monumental battle that's going on for third between DeMeo, 35, and Kingsley, 16, the two Policaro Motorsport teammates.
Now, hats off to Martin Harvey in the 08 in the Wingo Racing Porsche Prestige entry. He knew that battle was coming, and he gave them enough room that they needed, and it benefited Michael DeMeo, who was able to make that pass going into turn number 8. But as you mentioned, because of the area that the 16 of Jeff Kingsley caught the 08, it cost him just a little bit, just fractions of a second, but that's all that matters. It'll take a couple laps now for Kingsley to make up that margin once again. These two drivers putting in very, very similar lap times each and every time around. I mean, it's tenths and hundredths of a second between them. You look at the last time by was 1:22.34 for Michael DeMeo and 1:22.42 for Jeff Kingsley. So at that rate, you're not going to gain or lose too much. You're hoping the driver in front makes a mistake.
And again, the lap times here into the mid-minute 20s here on Friday under beautiful, sunny, completely dry conditions are into the minute 19s. But again, the heavy rains overnight washing off a lot of the rubber, and we only had the Nissan Micro Cup cars out on the racetrack before we rolled out our first race of the day. If you've just joined us here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, we welcome you to the Chevrolet Silverado 250 weekend. Dave Bradley, Pat Gonzalez in the announce booth. The concluding laps of this Ultra 94 Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Canada by Yokohama. It has been the Mark Motors pair of Robichaux and DeAngelis. They continue to run 1-2, but on that lap, now with the minutes ticking away, Roman DeAngelis has reeled in Robichaux. It's down to about a little over 3 seconds.
And this is interesting. Little over 4 minutes left to go in this race. Does he have enough time to close a 3-second gap up to this race leader? Zachary Robichaux may be just on cruise control right now. He may be leaning back. He has no reason to push that car and to make a big mistake and cost him his 11th win of the 2018 season. Hard to believe one driver has dominated so much. 10 wins on the season. The only one he misstepped on was in Montreal. Roman DeAngelis taking the victory there. DeAngelis actually had a very, very solid weekend in Montreal, and unfortunately came up just a little bit short in race number 2. Started on pole, but Zachary Robichaux was able to get around in the early going and keep the young 17-year-old from Belle River, Ontario at bay for the entire distance of that run, taking home the victory. But essentially it's been the Zachary Robichaux show in 2018, and deservedly so. He has been nearly flawless all season long, and once again here today he has done the same. He has been so strong since the drop of the initial grade, but this has been just a battle for the ages for third spot between Michael DeMeo and the 16 of Jeff Kingsley.
And that race for third, about 12 seconds back of the race leader, Zach Robichaux. And on that previous lap, DeAngelis had closed to less than 4 seconds. It's now gone back up over 4 seconds. So that continues to accordion back and forth. But I agree, 10 wins out of 11, looking to make it 11 out of a dozen. And Robichaux, I think, does have something in reserve should he need it. With the minutes ticking away, I think we've got 1 lap left to go, and the last lap indication out to the drivers as they work up across the line here to complete lap number 31. So we'll get 32 laps here in this morning over the 45-minute time distance, and here is that battle going on a little bit further back for third.
Actually, that one is Stefan Rudzinski, Remo Ricchetti battle for 6th position. Ricchetti has been turning some very, very fast laps, working his way up through the field. Battle for 6th now. Remember, he spun in the opening laps of this race in the 96, and he's all the way back up to 6th spot. Stefan Rudzinski pretty quick here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park in the downtown Porsche Speedstar Motorsports entry. And now Ricchetti is looking for a way by. So it just goes to show you how quick the open road racing number 96 of Ricchetti has been here in race number 2, but unfortunate circumstances in the early going cost him track position, and he's been forced to work his way back up through, but he's not too far off as far as fast lap times, but off of turn number 10. And still a minute left in this 45-minute time race. We'll hear the white flag will be coming out the next time by for your race leader, Zachary Robichon, the Mark Motors number 98. As he works his way through the field, Ricchetti to the outside, coming into turn number 8. That is actually a prime opportunity to pick up a spot, is working the outside because it gives you the inside advantage for turn number 9. Now, inside to outside, Ricchetti looking for a way by in turn number 10.
Radzinski making that car very wide here in turn 10. So the last lap indication did not come out the last time by. They completed lap number 32, so we're on 33. So should be the next time by. They'll get the white last lap flag. Robichon's lead has now stretched back to about 4.5 seconds. So I think he is very comfortable out front. His teammate, DeAngelis, almost resolved now to pick up that second place spot, but we'll continue to monitor this race-long battle going on for third between the Polycara Motorsport teammates, Jeff Kingsley and Michael DeMille.
There comes your race leader off of turn number 10, the Mark Motors entry in the number 98 of Zachary Robichon. We'll see the white flag for the final time here in 2018. Robichon running both here and in the U.S. On several occasions. As a matter of fact, he's been down for 2 race weekends running the Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge USA, and a tire lockup by Stefan Rudzinski into turn number 8 as he continues to try and keep the number 96 of Remo Ricchetti at bay.
And out of turn number 10, they drag race to the checkered flag in the finish stripe, and it does look as though Rudzinski was able to hold off Ricchetti for that position. As
still 1 lap to go. That was the white flag for this battle for 7th. Deeper in the field, Robichon should be working his way down the back straightaway, and the checkered flag will be out. But will Ricchetti be able to get around the number 8 of Stefan Rudzinski? He's losing opportunities now as time continues to tick down in this 45-minute timed race. Off of turn number 8 for the final time, the number 98 of Zachary Robichon, all by himself here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park through number 10 and on to the front straightaway. He'll see the checkered flag, his 11th win of 2018 in the books for the champion, Zachary Robichon.
And out of turn number 10, that race for third will go to 35. Michael DeMille just ahead of Jeff Kingsley. Patrick Dussault up across the line to finish in the 5th place spot.
Battle for 7th, and Rudzinski once again locks up that right front tire, and that allows the 96 of Remo Ricchetti to sneak through in turn number 8. So Ricchetti, after starting on the outside of the front row, has worked his way back up through the field, and he will cross the stripe in 6th spot. A dynamite effort for the driver out of British Columbia in the open road racing Porsche Center Langley, number 96. Stefan Rudzinski's solid finish as well in the 8. We'll have another look, and it's in turn number 5. Again, that lock up on the right front, and that's really what cost Rudzinski. They went side by side on the exit of turn number 5, and then a drag race down the back straightaway.
Indeed, those two drivers off of 5C were side by side as we get the benefit of the video replay, locking it up into 5A. Then they're side by side through B, and then up the Andretti straightaway. The car there of Remo Ruscitti was able to get around and grab that 6th place spot. Well, that's quite an accomplishment to come from the back of the running order after that spin early in turn number 5, carve his way through the entire field, or not the entire field, but most of the field, to get up there to finish in 6th behind our top 5. Zach Robichaux, your winner. Roman DeAngelis in 2nd, Michael DeMeo in 3rd, then Jeff Kingsley and Patrick Dussault rounding out the top 5.
But a solid run once again for the driver out of Ottawa, Ontario, driving for Mark Motors in Ottawa, and Zachary Robichaux will be crowned champion once again here today. He'll step on the top step of the podium and he'll celebrate with a few donuts here in turn number 9. Don't damage that motor.